Welcome back to part 2, Marge Gets Power Steering. So here we are, obviously inside the car, not a lot of steering wheel or column. So we've got our column here. I did a quick approximate measurement on this one. Just popped this down over the steering box and it was about 2 inches too long to put it back, to put this part of it back in its original location. I marked this where it used to go. So just before we started rolling, I cut 2 inches off here, and that's got us, because we do have some margin of error here, we can kind of telescope this in and out a bit. So it's I took 2 inches off. That put us right where we wanted, you know, within the ballpark of where we needed to be for the length of the column. Now we've got this U-joint, which just goes down here. I'm sure you'll be able to see it from that angle, but it just plugs over the end of the steering box for splines, pops down in there. We'll tighten that little set screw so it sits in the right place. Just finger tighten it. So, right, next thing is the center shaft. We pop that in there. Alright, you can tell that's going to be too long because it's going to put the steering wheel kind of out here somewhere. But then we put this on in its new slightly shortened format. Now I'm just going to get that. Just can be a tiny bit. There we go. Right, so that has to slide all the way down onto there. And we want to get this bracket, this U-shaped bracket, back onto its bolting points, which is there. Let's be the wrong nut. Okay, so that's kind of how it's going to mount up. So I marked it under here with a Sharpie. In a second I'll bring the camera down underneath so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And I also measured and wrote down the measurement under here, 12 inches from the edge of this steel U-bolt to that face there, which was exactly 12 inches. And that is, it's lined up with the Sharpie marks. So this is just a double check. That's 12 inches. That's exactly where it was. So the outer column's right. The inner column, not so much. Now, so all we have to do here is, don't have a straight edge in here. We have to measure from this edge. Well, we met right at the beginning of this. We measured from there to the threads. And we wrote it down on the front page of the instructions. There was a little spot there to write it down. And it was, I think from memory, like 1 3/8 inches. The measurement we have right now is 7 1/4. Yep, 7 1/4. So the next trick is to take your 7 1/4, subtract the measurement that we had on the front page of the instructions that we recorded right at the beginning of this video series, and you know, so which was 1 3/8. Subtract that from the 7 1/4, and what you're left with is how much you have to cut off this. So let's grab the instructions, do a bit of math, and cut this down. Now, just before we disappear off, I will attempt to show you kind of from underneath what's going on here. There you can see where I wrote 12 inches and I put a little arrow to signify that edge. Alright, and that's where we got our 12 inches, plus you can see a Sharpie mark around there around the edge of the rubber that I did front and back. You can see it. Yeah, you can just kind of see the Sharpie mark at the back edge there. And yeah, that's kind of down in there. Looking quite good. So yeah, let's get this out and get her trimmed down. So back at the bench, got our instructions, got our measurement here that we filled out, you know, first thing you do, and that was you know, the inch and 3/8 from that edge of the outer column to the head of the centre shaft, inch and 3/8. At the moment it's that's sticking out 7 1/4, which is 5 7/8 too much. So if we take you know, an inch and 3/8 away from 7 1/4, it leaves us with 5 7/8, and that is how much we have to cut off this shaft here. 5 7/8. Now if you're not 100% sure of your math, cut off, you know, an inch less than that. Like instead of 5 7/8, cut off 4 7/8, and then you can remeasure and, you know, see with, you know, see if the math still works out the same. It's a lot easier to do 2 cuts on here or 3 cuts than actually, you know, do the wrong cut. So I'm pretty confident what I've got. 5 7/8 is, that takes us to there. A little silver Sharpie mark. And one thing they do say in the instructions, that leaves you with this shaft at approximately 25.5 inches. So, alright, that's actually giving us 27. So, you know, we're certainly on the long side, you know, working it out like that. Yep. So, 5 7/8. Let's cut that off. See where it gets us to. Okay, let's try it. Alright, back in the car. This is back in and assembled with the U-joint at the bottom, outer column back in, and let's just check our measurement. Now, it's a matter of putting a straight edge across here, measuring, let's see, I'll do it this way so I can see it, and that is exactly 1 3/8, which is what we started, you know, that was our original. I don't know whether you'll be able to read this or not, but if you, like, just here, that's 1 3/8, so we're right on the money. That first cut worked exactly. I mean, you do your math and your math's correct, you should just need 1 cut really. So that's working. So yeah, all we have to do now is drill out the universal. It's a slip joint, it is a smooth, it's not splined. It's splined onto the steering gearbox, but it's a smooth fit onto the actual steering shaft, and that has a roll pin, which, you know, we need to drill a hole obviously in the right place, put that pin in, and then it can be kind of reassembled for the last time. While we're here on this particular trip, I'm going to run a Tech screw in to lock, because this is the outer is the length we need. Now I'm happy with that length. So I'm going to run a Tech screw in here just while we can get to it. We can't get to the other 2 holes, but we can get to this one, and then when we take it out we can run the other ones in. So that's locked that lower tube onto the main tube. So that's that. We can get that off. Right, we'll go and drill and pin this. Had to clean this shaft a little bit just to get it to slide down in there nice. And that was all the way in and bottomed. So we just got to drill through here, pin that with a roll pin. So let's head to the bench and do that. Here it is. Zoom in a little bit for you. Right, there you see the shaft in there. Now this collar is just it's just smooth. We put that all the way home, and then we're going to drill through here. What's nice is that part of the kit, and this is what separates the better kits, you know, from the not so good kits. They supply you a drill bit and the roll pin that you need to go in through here. So yeah, you're not kind of left, where am I going to find a roll pin? Now I think that's the American term for that roll pin. So yeah, right, let's get this in and drill it. There's that. Come back here. Could be a little small on that drill size, I think. And you do want an interference fit, but it's pretty darn tight. It's definitely going to be tight. We'll give it another try. That does not want to go in. No. Here we go. Sorry about that. You never quite know when a customer's going to walk in. Right, let's finish this up. Yeah, it goes, it's tight, but it's good. I mean, I guess you want it tight, right? It's certainly going nowhere. Now, going to just trim a little bit off the end of that. Just a little bit. It's going to be a little close unless that tube's exactly on centre. So I'm going to just take about 1/4 inch off it. Just do that quickly. Now, so that's kind of your end result. Now that's still long enough that even if it works its way partially out, which is honestly it's never going to do, that's tight. You know, it's going to hit the side of this outer column tube before it can get all the way out, and you lose your steering. So that's kind of a fail safe, which is nice. So now we're ready to put that on permanent onto the box, get the outer column on, and yeah, we'll be pretty close then. Alright, I'm going to set up the camera and do that. Right, let's get this in, hopefully for the last time. We are going to have to put this little rubber gasket assembly up on here, but let's get this attached, and yeah, get a little bit of Loctite on the little set screw, just to be on the safe side. Sure, that's completely blocked the shot now, but hey, got an image of the back of my head. Tightened up. They have a little jam nut like so, which goes on. So we are going to have to get this. Oh, hang on, guys.
A little delivery for you.
Yeah. All right, I've got this firewall gasket. It's slipped over the column. I've had to trim the hole out in a little bit for the bigger diameter. So that's kind of snug on there. We're going to get that in there. So this is a little fiddly. We're going to get this over here. Get it all slid down, navigate around the brake pedal and all this stuff. And fish this up through here. Alright. That'll go up there. We can put a nut on there. Right, now you see the gaskets here nice and snug. We'll get that lined up. Get those screws in. And looks like the real thing. Alright guys, well I'm going to finish putting some screws and nuts and bolts and stuff in, and we also have, once I get some of those in, we've got to attach this contraption that goes around the column and bolts through the firewall, and that just gives a nice solid location for the base of the column, because it is only loosely over the steering box. So that's what locks that down at the bottom end, so you don't get kind of wiggle in your column. So let me just get those screws in and that stuff buttoned down, and I'll be back in a second. Alright, so we're getting really close now. Let me just move the camera down. I'll pick it up off of here so we can get you down underneath here and show you what I've been up to. Right, here's that firewall plate all done. We've got this U-bolt with a bracket. Now if you kind of look real close, I modified this bracket a little bit. I put a little bend in it here and kind of cut a little relief out of the back just to make it line up a bit nicer. It was pretty quick to do. yeah, so that just it's just easier to fit now. Yeah, just cut the back out of that angle iron across where the U-bolt goes, and then just gave the one side a little twist, and that is super solid now. That will not go. Let me try and get you back a little ways. That's just as solid as it ever was. So yeah, pretty happy with that. So now bleed the system and test drive. Right, back in a second. So it's time to do the bleed of the power steering. So it's coming quick. We got all the hoses on now. Again, it's quite a nice little installation. Nothing looks horribly out of place. You know, it looks like it could be factory, but clearly it's not. Yeah, so now it's a matter of bleeding the system. Now they're very specific about how they want you to do it in the instructions, and I just, you know, comply, go along with what they want to do, because if you get too big an air pocket through that pump, it can really mess it up. So what they're saying is fill the reservoir up, get it nice and full. Go from lock to lock, either by, you know, just by manhandling the wheels left to right, you know, or just, you know, the actual turning the steering wheel, and go left to right, and that will help to, you know, get some air bubbles out. Now I went through that. They said do it up to 40 times, you know, so left 20 times, full left with 20 times, full right 20 times, and it did. The fluid level did go down a little bit, but not much. So that, you know, part of the instructions say, you know, if you don't get a lot of fluid drop, there's still a big air pocket in there. So then the next step is then to disconnect the plug wire, you know, your coil wire, and crank it, you know, without, so it doesn't start, but just at cranking speed. So, you know, just basically, I've just used a remote starter, and just, okay, because we didn't pull the coil wire. And our battery's a bit low. But yeah, I'm really, you know, I've actually done the bleed on it, so it's all worked out well. And even doing that with the cranking, we pulled a little bit more fluid down, but still really not enough. And then, so then they say, you know, do that a few times, and then start it, but just run it very briefly. So all I did was connected the coil wire back up, had this, and just, you know, as it started, let it run for maybe 2 seconds, 2-3 seconds, and then pulled that off. But when it did fire, it immediately pulled, like basically emptied the reservoir. It just went and it just fired it into the system. So I just pulled. If you got a buddy with you doing it, you can just tell him to turn it off. I find, you know, it's quick just to pull that wire off, and it'll just kills the engine off the ballast resistor. So yeah, it instantly emptied the reservoir, topped it up again, gave it another little fire up. 2-3 seconds, it swallowed the whole lot again, and again killed it, filled it up. And at that point the fluid was very aerated, lots of little fine bubbles in, like a soda or something. And they say to just step away, like leave it for 10 minutes, let those fine bubbles rise and get out of the system. The air in the hydraulic pump is not good for it. It can tear up your pump and create little pits in the pressure surfaces in the pump surfaces. So yeah, go through that system. There's a little bit of messing around, but it came good. Once I let the air bubbles come up, and ran it then left to right, and you could hear it. You know, you could hear a few bubbles coming out, and the level went down. The thing is, if it gets too low, the level, and it really starts to suck air, it's going to hurt it. So you just need to be ready to shut it down, top it up with fluid. Like, don't leave it running and whining when it's low on fuel while you grab your fluid. Don't leave it running while you're finding the bottle of fluid and pouring it in. Like, as soon as you hear it sucking air, then turn it off, top it up, do it again, turn it off, top it up. So that's the bleed series, and again, very good detailed instructions with the kit. So just read what they tell you and just do it to the letter, and then nobody's got any complaints. They're also very specific about what type of fluid to run. Don't run automatic transmission fluid, use proper power steering fluid, and a good name brand like Valvoline, Royal Purple, something like that, a good quality power steer fluid. and like I got some Valvoline and it was $12 a quart. You know, it's not you know, it's the kit was like $1,200, and you know, so don't buy $8 power steering fluid instead of $12 power steering fluid. That's not smart. So anyway, she's running, the steering is working, so now it's time to take it for a test drive. Back in a second. Alright, let's go. Well, as you can see, we've got no real issues there. Let's go. It's catching our newly fitted turn signals need a little bit of fine tuning. So that's all right. There's always something to adjust. We're not far off straight on the steering wheel. I've only got this on loose. There we go. Actually, that's running pretty true down the road. Steering wheel. Yeah, might just go to the right one spline. There we go, cruising in Marge with power steering. Feels nice. It's not too feather light. You know, you can there's still some road feel there. But it's certainly not as, you know, it's more responsive. It's not as vague as it was. It was pretty vague before you had a lot of this before it really turned. Still wouldn't call it super precise, but you know, we've still got upper ball joints to do on it. They're really worn. So there's other things in the steering that aren't quite up to scratch yet, but that's just another little job to do. I'm pretty happy with that. It's nice now we got rid of all that exhaust noise. We had a leaking, one of the left side exhaust manifold was leaking pretty bad, so got that all fixed up. It's nice. We'll get some headlining in it, because man, that's noisy, that root. It's like a big old tin drum. Turn signals, we can tell the guy behind us we're turning left. That's what's nice, just being able to just swing it around like that, just effortlessly is nice. You don't have to, you can just do it one-handed, you don't have to like... Oh yeah, it's nice. Well, I'm going to give that kit like an A, maybe not an A+. There was a couple of little things that were a bit harder than they needed to be, but definitely an A compared to an F for that one on the Buick. Just a couple of little things needed a bit of minor adjusting. But to be fair, you know, it is a put together kit. It's not. It wasn't just. They didn't start with a blank piece of paper. They started with an existing steering box and had to make it work. They started with a GM pump, which had to be made to fit a Mopar engine. So there was a few, you know, a little bit of creative engineering going on. And yeah, but all in all, very good. I'm going to call it a win. It makes Marge that little bit nicer to drive. And yeah, in my opinion, worth the money. Alright guys, we're going to head back to the shop, park her up, and probably call it a day. Alright, well you have a good one, and we'll be back with more videos just as soon as we can. See you guys.